All right, so today is marketing metrics part two, leads, acquiring customers, and transactions. Last week we discussed part one, which is the lifetime value of a customer and how much that plays a role in the amount that you can spend to acquire that customer. So today's webinar, if you've got questions, feel free to put them in the little question box you see on the GoToWebinar panel. I'll try and answer them as we go along or at the end. And let's get started and get moving on here. So let's start with cost per lead. And then this is pretty straightforward. It's the amount of money spent to acquire one new lead. And you're going to hear me say this quite a lot, but I'm just absolutely shocked at how few business owners that I talk to really don't know many or any of their marketing metrics. And the way we're working through this is we're kind of starting with the most important and going down. So cost per lead. And here's how you calculate it. Very simply, you take your marketing and advertising spend and you divide that by the number of leads. So if you're spending $1,000 on marketing and you get 10 leads from that, it's $100 per lead. So why is this important, right? It seems like really simple, really straightforward. Well, it's a critical measurement of how effective your marketing and advertising is, and it really allows you to see the effectiveness of specific marketing channels. So let's say that you're doing radio advertising and you spend $10,000 on that and you get 1,000 leads, right? So you're spending $10 per lead. Let's say you do TV advertising, you spend $10,000 on that and I don't know, you get 100 leads, right? So you're spending way more per lead than on TV than you are radio. So you get a really quick snapshot of how much you're spending per lead in the different areas of your marketing. Okay, and it can give you kind of a quick indication of how well those areas are doing. And second here, it's an indication of how much revenue must be generated out of your prospects in order to cover marketing costs and still be profitable. So if you're spending $100 per lead, you've got to do a lot better than that from revenue. And assuming the quality stays the same, the more leads you generate per dollar spent in marketing, the better. So if you spend $100 and you get 5 leads out of that versus spending $100 and getting 1 lead, obviously getting 5 is a lot better. So you want to try and maximize the leads you get per dollar spent. And the company that can do that the best is typically going to be the one that truly excels with their marketing. So how do you reduce the cost per lead? And it really comes down to tracking everything. And again, so many business owners fail to track where their leads are generated, how many are generated, what's the quality of those leads, and the marketing costs in each channel, right? If you know these 4 numbers right here, you'll be able to easily see, okay, you'll be able to very easily and quickly see, okay, this advertising is not nearly as effective as this one, right? Because it's not just about the cost of the lead, it's also about the quality of those leads and the type of jobs that they're bringing in. So you do want to kind of take that into consideration. But knowing these 4 things and being able to say this channel produces this many leads at this cost, so it's this, $100 per lead or $50 per lead, and knowing that for every 100 leads, 5 of those become customers, and out of those 5 I generate 50,000 in revenue, something like that. That's kind of the way you want to be able to work those numbers. So part 2 of this, average transaction value. Okay, so we just talked about cost per lead, what it takes to get a lead. So now let's talk about what is the transaction value. And it's just like it sounds, the average amount a customer spends each time they buy. All right. And here's how you figure it out. You simply take the revenue you generate divided by the number of transactions. Okay. So revenue of, I don't know, let's say 1,000, 10 transactions, $100 is your average transaction value. And this is a very, very important number because it may just be the fastest way to grow your business. Okay. And it's definitely one of the building blocks of lifetime value. Because if you take your average transaction value times the amount of transactions, or that repetition, you get your lifetime value. And the great thing about average transaction value is you don't need any new customers to grow your business. All you have to do is increase that transaction value. Okay. So if you stick with the same amount of customers, but you're getting them to buy more expensive items, additional items, you're getting them to buy more often, right? You instantly grow your business and you didn't have to get any new customers. And it's very, very easy and quick to do compared to going out and getting new customers and trying to grow that way. So how do you raise your average transaction value? And there's many ways with immediate impact, and raising prices is probably the quickest possible way that you could do it, is just to simply raise your prices. And um, a second one, upsell, cross sell, and downsell. Again, this is a part I think that a lot of business owners struggle with, is they don't have good systems in place to get people to buy more expensive items to upgrade, to get them to buy additional items. And a downsell is when someone is basically, oh, this service is too expensive right now. You say, well, let's just, get you started with something a little cheaper. Let's just get you going, get your foot in the door so that you don't lose that customer, and then you can upsell them down the road. And so you've really got to look at, when you get a new customer, is, am I charging as much as I can? And, given the value of my service, am I priced competitively and accordingly? And do I have systems in place to upsell, cross sell, downsell, resell my existing customers, right? To maximize every transaction, and finally bundling things together, right? It kind of goes in right with the upsell and the cross sell. Is if they buy widget A, you can bundle it with B and C, right? You see all the time in grocery stores where if you buy a gallon of milk or 2 gallons of milk, they'll give you a free box of cookies with it, right? They're bundling things together like that. So really look at your business. Look at, what are the ways I can increase the transactions that are going to happen regardless. And that's going to be one of the quickest ways to increase your revenue and your profitability from a marketing standpoint. So ask yourself these 3 questions. How are you priced relative to your competition, right? And does that price reflect your brand positioning? Are you underpriced? Are you overpriced? Are you right where you should be? And is that pricing representative of how your brand is perceived in the marketplace? And finally, what can be sold with initial product to complement or enhance, right? So what can I combine with that product that they're initially buying, or that service they're initially buying, that will complement it or enhance it? Oftentimes, like, I just bought uh, a new laptop bag, and they tried to sell me on leather sealer and protectant and stuff like that, right? So they're trying to give you a complimentary product, right? Buy new dress shoes, they usually offer some kind of shoe protectant. They'll offer, do you want some insoles, that sort of thing. Again, they're trying to raise that average transaction value, because it's one of the quickest ways to grow your business and to increase your revenue. So again, look at your price first, and then look at what you can sell that complements or enhances that initial purchase that your customers are making. So, the important lesson here: in almost all cases, the fastest way to grow businesses' revenue and profits is simply raise your prices. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to do anything additional. Raise your prices. You're instantly going to increase the lifetime value. You're going to increase the average transaction value. And both of those are going to ultimately increase your revenue and profit. So that's the first place you want to start, with an average transaction value. If you want to increase that, is look at your pricing, okay, and then go from there. So number 3 in the marketing metrics in today's presentation, so, is cost to acquire a customer. And just like it sounds, it's the average amount it takes to bring a new customer in the door. And again, I'm amazed at how many people have no clue how much it costs for them to bring a new customer in the door, right? And they don't have a clue on how to compare that to what it costs to keep an existing customer. So calculating the cost to acquire a customer, you take your marketing costs divided by the number of new customers. That's one way to look at it. Okay, so again, if you're spending $10,000 and you get 2 new customers, then it's $5,000 to acquire a new customer. Okay, and again, this is a really, really important number as well to know. So take your marketing cost divided by the number of new customers, and that's what you're paying to acquire a customer. Or you can look at it from another way, and you can take the cost per lead divided by the percentage of those leads that you convert. Okay, so let me grab a calculator and kind of do some here. So let's just say it's $50 per lead, right? And let's say you convert 5% of those. That means that you're spending about $1,000 to acquire a new customer. Okay, so it's just another way to kind of look at it, to use your cost per lead, and that's why it's important to know these numbers, because they all play into each other. None of them are mutually exclusive, and so again, marketing costs divided by the number of new customers, or you can take your cost per lead divided by the percentages of leads converted. Now, why is this number important? And it's for two big reasons. It's the ultimate measure of whether or not a marketing source is working. All right. And the second one is it's the clearest indication of the necessary marketing budget to hit growth goals. Okay. So let's kind of drill down a little bit. What do those two things mean? Well, you have to look at the lifetime customer value to see if your business works, right? So you take your cost to acquire and you compare that to the lifetime client value. And what is the difference? Let's say your cost to acquire a new customer is $1,000 and the lifetime value of a client or a customer is $5,000. Okay. So it basically takes you about 20% of the lifetime value to acquire that customer. Now, if the cost to acquire is too high, okay, you're going to be in trouble, right? If the cost to acquire is much lower than the lifetime value, right down here, you have a winner, okay? So let's say that our cost to acquire became $3,000 and the lifetime value was $5,000, right? Now we're looking at a much different scenario. We're looking at a much less profitable scenario, and actually you're going to probably be in trouble. Okay, so you want to work on in your business is getting the cost to acquire a new customer as low as possible while keeping the lifetime client value as high as possible. Okay, you want that difference to be as big as you can get, and the bigger that is, right, the lower your cost to acquire is compared to the lifetime client value, the much better off your business is going to be, the much more profitable your business is going to be. So, how do you lower your cost to acquire, right? Because last week we talked about lifetime value and how to increase the lifetime value, upselling people and retaining them and different things like that. But the biggest way is to test. And again, so few business owners test when it comes to their marketing. And it just blows me away at how, I guess, unsophisticated many people are when it comes to this. And so you've got to test different marketing channels. You've got to test different marketing messages, different offers, and different price points. And the point of all of this, okay, is you want to be able to find the marketing channel or channels that's going to give you the lowest cost to acquire, and the message that's going to give you the lowest cost to acquire, and the offer and the price points that give you the lowest cost to acquire. Okay. And it's an ongoing process. And many companies just set their price, they've got their offer. Here's our message, which is usually we offer a great service and product at an affordable price. Lame. And, you know, they try one marketing thing one time. They said it didn't work, but they don't really know because they weren't tracking it. Okay. So to lower your cost to acquire, you need to test everything, track everything, and work on finding the areas and kind of the combination that's going to give you the most amount of leads and new customers for the least amount of cost. And that takes time and it takes work. And I know, a lot of people are really, really busy and they're busy running their businesses and that sort of thing. But this stuff is so important because if you know this, right, if you know these numbers and you can use them to your advantage, you're just going to smoke the competition with it. So let's kind of recap the three metrics we talked about today. So cost per lead, that kind of determines the effectiveness of your marketing from a really kind of high altitude standpoint, right? If your cost per lead is way higher in some marketing channels than others, depending on the quality of those leads, I mean, you can probably deduce that you're going to want to focus on where the leads come in cheaper, as long as the quality remains the same. And raising your average transaction value can be the quickest way to increase revenue, right? So we talked about really making sure your pricing is where it needs to be, and then looking at ways that you can offer complementary and supportive services and products when people are purchasing. Much like the shoe place sells you insoles and sells you shoe polish when you're buying shoes, right? They're trying to get that transaction value as high as possible. So really drill down in your business and think, what can I bundle? What can I offer them? A lot of places sell warranties. A lot of companies, and this is another mistake I see, is you go in, you make a purchase, and you never hear from them ever again. And I think that that's a big miss right there, is that you've got all of these people who already know, like, trust, try, and have bought, and you just let them forget about you, and you don't try and maximize as much as you can out of them. And the third one, cost to acquire a new customer ultimately determines your fate in terms of profitability. The closer the cost to acquire is to the lifetime customer value, the less profitable you will be. If you can reduce that cost to acquire and you can increase that lifetime customer value, the farther those two numbers are apart, the more profitable you become. Okay. And that's really the key. And to be able to know your cost to acquire a customer and to know that lifetime customer value, you've got to know cost per leads, you've got to know your average transaction value, and you've got to know the lifetime customer value, which we talked about in our previous webinar, our previous presentation. So, um, really, I know this stuff can maybe be a little dry, but it's so important because so many businesses simply do not know these numbers. They don't look at them. They just, you know, that kind of brute force when it comes to your marketing, hoping something sticks. It's quickly eroding. Marketing is really becoming much more about relevancy and about stealth and about using data and using numbers to your advantage and being as cost effective as possible, because so many things are so expensive and becoming so much less effective that you have to come in there with stealth. You've got to go in there knowing your numbers, knowing what types of marketing is producing, what isn't, knowing what the cost to acquire customers is coming from, these transaction values. You've got to really use data and you've got to be a lot smarter about it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we move forward in the next couple of years about businesses who embrace the technology out there and embrace these marketing metrics and your ability to really know all of this. You can take the internet allows you to basically easily track all of these numbers. And so that's really my challenge for everyone out there listening, is to take some time, and even if you've got a big business and it's just too overwhelming, too much time, and make some educated guesses. And some goals you can have for your team internally is let's increase the average transaction value, guys. Let's increase the lifetime value. Let's try and reduce our cost per lead. Those sorts of things. You can kind of set goals like that within your business, and it really helps propel you forward. So those are 3 marketing metrics we talked about today. Next week, Wednesday at noon, we will be dipping into another set of marketing metrics. We'll be talking about referrals. We'll be talking about percentage likely to refer, percentage of repeat business for new versus new business, and what you want those numbers to kind of look like and what you want those numbers to be. So thank you, everyone. It doesn't look like we've got any questions on here right now, but I want to thank all of you for coming on the webinar today. Had a good turnout. And if you've got any questions, feel free to email me, give me a call, and we'll make sure that we get everything. We've got this recorded, and we'll get the replay out, and we'll also be doing number 3 for marketing metrics next week, Wednesday at noon. So thanks a lot, and have a great week.